Today we're going to be talking about the CCA C10 PRO, which is a hybrid 5-driver inner monitor that comes in at around $50. So what can you expect as far as overall quality and performance from a budget hybrid 5-driver inner monitor? We're going to look a little closer at the CCA C10 PRO and try to answer some of those questions and more. This is Audio in Reviews. Okay, so let's go over the specifications, design, build, comfort, and isolation of the C10 PRO. This is a hybrid IEM, so it has two different types of drivers that it uses. It's got 4 balanced armature drivers for the mids and the highs, and a 10mm dynamic driver for the bass. As far as the build, the shell is made out of plastic on the inside and around the edges. It's a plastic shell. The outside is a CNC'd aluminum. The cable has a 2-pin connector, and you can see it's kind of angled here. I'll go over that in a second. I do like that it's recessed, so when it connects, it just feels nice and tight, and it stays nice and tight. It doesn't have there's no issues as far as it getting loose. So the connection on the connector is quite secure. The cable is silver plated, and it has a 3.5 angled jack. As far as the overall design, I like the design. I think the black and gold combination is pretty cool, and the plastic on the inside, the clear plastic, looks like a little bit of a tint to it. So it goes really nicely, kind of a smoky kind of clear plastic. And some of the components on the inside they look like they might be gold as well. The nozzle is gold. So overall, I think the design's pretty cool. As far as the comfort, I've had no issues with discomfort other than and only at first, because I was able to find a good angle, but this little bend right here on the 2-pin connector at first was bothering the front of my ear just a little bit. So I was able to find, with some adjustment, I can kind of tilt it forward a little bit and avoid that. And sometimes with other IEMs that have this, I've done that before, and I'll lose my seal. Sometimes I have to actually have the in-ear monitor tilted slightly back so that the nozzle has the proper angle and I get a proper seal. I did not have that issue with this though. I was able to kind of pull this forward and still maintain a proper seal. So it is going to depend on your ear shape. Some people may find this bend right here a little bit annoying. But overall, again, once I was able to get it in place, I didn't have any issues after that. As far as isolation, the isolation is quite good on these. I was listening to music on the couch the other night in the living room with my family. They were having a conversation while I was listening to music, and I couldn't hear them at all once I had the music turned up, even just a little bit. So with music playing, this was able to kind of drown out all that noise. When it was quiet, like in between songs, I did hear them a little bit. But overall, the isolation on these is good. Again, that's always going to depend on the environment, your listening environment. So if you're on a bus or a train or in a noisy area, there may be some bleed through. Overall, for the price, I think they did a good job on the build. The cable is sufficient, the design is cool, comfort is good, and isolation is good. So let's go ahead and move on to the sound. Okay, so let's talk about the sound of the CCA C10 PRO. Again, we talked about the different types of drivers it is a hybrid, so it's got the 4 balanced armatures that take care of the mids and the highs. Then you have the dynamic driver for the bass. Generally, when you have a budget in-ear monitor, not always, but generally, they tend to lean towards what's called a fun tuning, which is basically just a V-shaped sound signature. So you've got elevated highs, elevated bass, and recessed mids. So what that does is it gives you, again, more treble emphasis, more bass emphasis, and then it pulls the mids back. And typically people like that, so that's why they call it a fun tuning, because it's pretty palatable with most consumers. So now this particular V shape does lean towards the bright side, and the sub bass is rolled off. So when I listened to these, most genres of music that I tried on these did pretty well. Classic rock, listened to the Eagles, the Hotel California live recording, sounded great. Electronic music sounded good, of course, with a V-shaped tuning. You've got that bass and the kick in a lot of electronic music, and then you have a lot of texture in the bass and stuff. These did pretty well, again, with the recessed mids. Some of the type of electronic I listened to, Frederick Robinson, he's got a lot of different stuff going on. So in some of his recordings I'm very familiar with, I did notice the recessed mids a little bit. And if it's a recording I'm really familiar with, I have a certain expectation of how it should sound. And sometimes I do miss those mids when I'm listening to a V-shaped IEM. But as far as overall the electronic, again with the sub bass, the bass boost in this, it seemed like it did pretty well. And the highs, again being elevated, this had a decent level of clarity and detail, did a very good job with that. Moving into the live recordings, you know me, I like to listen to my live recordings. I listened to Hoff Ensemble and Jazz at the Pawn Shop. And the Jazz at the Pawn Shop, the soundstage is quite intimate. This did a pretty good job representing an intimate soundstage. With the Hoff Ensemble that had a wider soundstage, this represented that wide soundstage as well. So overall, again, most genres of music that I listened to with these did quite well. But again, going back to the cost of these, at $50, I would say these are a great value. In-ear monitor companies, it seems like they're working harder to try to combine good design with good sound at an affordable cost. It just seems like it's getting a little better every year, and this definitely does seem like this is a good balance between the two. So overall, I would recommend these highly for the $50 price range. Again, going back to just the build, the fit, comfort, isolation, and the design. Again, the design's very cool. Overall sound signature, again, is very enjoyable. If you're just trying to kind of get into the in-ear monitor market, these are a good place to start for sure. For $50, these are a great value. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and share the video. Have a great day.